Replaced is finally out, which means I get to talk about it now. Big thank you to Sad Cat Studios and Thunderful Games for sending over a code a little early. I essentially spent my whole weekend completely focused on this game so I could give you my thoughts, opinions, and of course, just see if it was good. If you haven't heard of Replaced, it is a 2.5D cinematic action platformer that is set in an alternate 1980s America. You play as R.E.A.H, an AI trapped inside a human body, and you're trying to make it back into Phoenix City, which is the city stronghold of the Phoenix Corporation. Replaced ticks a lot of the boxes for the cyberpunk genre, which is one of my favorite settings. You've got the gritty dystopian backdrop, the ominous looming presence of a giant corporation, and those retro future elements. And these themes are all represented very well in this game. I love the fact that you can see snippets of conversations between background characters. Even though the game uses pixel graphics, I think the styling and design of the game was done in such a way that you can really feel the weight of emotion that surrounds all the characters, whether you interact with them directly or not. You really get immersed into the hardships of life beyond the walls of the city, even if facing those truths are a little surprising to old R.E.A.Chy boy. It's so interesting to me that one of the hallmarks of Cyberpunk is to essentially have AI used for some sort of nefarious purpose. Unsurprisingly, the same is also true here, but the game does expand on AI in a different way. We know that AI is capable of learning, we see that every day, whether it's news about how one of the various models is showing some sign of sentience, or we've fed it a particular type of information to help train and educate the model. This is not really an alien concept. Replaced is answering the question of what happens when an AI is confronted with the truth of its creation. What is the reasoning behind its work? At least in Replaced, the only information fed to R.E.A.H is thoroughly controlled, meaning R.E.A.H has never had to question its existence before. It understands the logic behind the tasks it completes and has no feeling about it positively or negatively. Until, of course, a freak accident happens and R.E.A.H is now living in a very human body, which means you can now use your body for maximum efficiency, just peak operation, and even better, R.E.A.H is working to keep you safe and alive. Throughout the story, though, beyond the safety of the city, you learn that maybe things have been hidden from you. Maybe you're finally seeing things for what they are, atrocities for the sake of power and control. It's interesting as you talk to more people and see more things, how different R.E.A.H begins to sound. In the beginning, R.E.A.H is very calculating, emotionless, and logical. It knows its purpose and what needs to be done to solve its current situation, all while keeping its creator alive. But then, understandably, as R.E.A.H learns new details, you can see the emotional component of being a human start to break through. Things are getting questioned, and R.E.A.H starts to understand making mistakes is just part of human nature. Emotions are part of human nature. Fighting back is human nature. I think they did an excellent job with the story and the choices you make. The world feels alive, and the actions and consequences feel like they matter. The realization and growth that happens among the characters within the game doesn't ever feel cheap. Sometimes it's easy to create a cop-out type of story, especially with the subject matter that has such a big tie-in with real life, but I feel like the story here, for the most part, was well developed. There were a couple of instances where things felt a little flat or just like abruptly stopped. Without spoiling anything, there's a larger type of reveal, and the conversation that happens as a part of that whole reveal just ends. Based on who the characters are, I expected a little more emotion and just more conversation to happen, but I was like, oh, okay, bye, I guess, because the scene just ended. Minor complaints, but when the rest of the story is so emotional and interesting, it stood out as not really fitting the moment entirely. As you progress, you will unlock new abilities, different tools, and weapons. I love the combat in this game. It's very fluid and has the same satisfying feeling that the Arkham games have. Nailing the counters, dodging, deflecting bullets, and just beating everyone down is so much fun. I think each encounter is also spaced out well, and they each make sense for the setting that you're in. There wasn't ever a moment where I was like, oh my god, I do not want another fight right now, please. You mainly use a futuristic police baton to take people down, but that does get upgraded later on to give you some pretty fancy moves. I even enjoyed the hacking sequences, which show up about midway through the game, which surprised me because normally I do not enjoy timed things like that. Pattern recognition does not always happen quickly for me in those scenarios, but there wasn't actually a ton of pressure. thing I had the most trouble with, honestly, was just the timing of things. Even in combat sometimes, because I tend to start getting a little aggressive and I end up button mashing, and I know that's not really the thing to do with this style of game. Combat was essentially easy for me to go through, even if I did break my flow a little bit by messing up my timing. Where the timing really messed me up though was on chase sequences or some sneaking scenarios. Chase sequences were rough for me because it took me longer than I would like to nail each jump perfectly. I don't play platformers or side-scrollers really. I don't play them because I get frustrated with the timing. But in this game, I felt like, for the most part, everything allowed for a certain margin of error, except the chase sequence. One in particular made me extremely frustrated, but I honestly don't have enough experience with these types of games to know if it was just like an annoyance of the game design, or if it's just a skill issue, or maybe a little column A and a little column B. So I guess if you are really interested in the story but you also don't play these types of games, you may feel a little more frustration than others. But I did really enjoy the environmental puzzles that were spread throughout the different locations. They weren't overly complicated, and there are lots of collectibles to find throughout the game as well, something that I greatly enjoyed. I loved reading everything as it just gave you more information and background into some of the things that everyone in this world is dealing with. I think one of my favorite things about Replaced is the design of the game. I absolutely love the way everything looks. I loved R.E.A.Ch's comments about things we found or discovered through the world, like the cats living at the station, and everything is just so cinematic. The way the camera pans across scenes to show enemies, new locations, or secrets is just incredibly well done. Whether you're in an old mine or you're roaming through the city, the way that they've showed off the art and design of each area is very cool. Honestly, other than timing issues and a couple of static dialogue moments, I don't really have a lot of notes on the game. Sometimes I felt like the colors were a little too muted to the point where I couldn't easily identify an object or an area to get to, but I really like to poke around and try a bunch of things anyway, so it didn't really faze me. I was recently talking about games just in general, and a friend said that indie games are the future, and I agree. A lot of cool, in-depth creativity and emotional storytelling is so well done in the indie sphere, and I think Replaced is a great example of this. I definitely recommend this even if you don't love side-scrollers. The music's great, the story's good, the combat is fun, and it is a great way to spend around 10-ish hours. Let me know what you think after you've had a chance to play through it. Thank you for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.